Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube video for my Linux Administration and Security CA1. For this CA1, I'll be choosing question 1, which is to work out a solution on grub password and root password recovery. I'll be using the CentOS 8 distribution provided in the module for this assignment. Before starting on the password recovery, I have first finished the necessary steps in Practical 0 and Practical 1 before getting started on the task. This is to ensure that I have a working CentOS 8 system which I can carry out my task on, as well as setting up my VM to be grub password protected. So before I continue, I have already set up my CentOS 8 virtual machine for use by following Practical 0 and using the distribution provided. And I've also changed the default root password to something which I can remember, and I also did follow Practical 1 to configure my VM with grub password protection. So if I were to launch my VM now, and now press E, you can see that my VM is currently password protected by grub, and I have to enter a password and super user to enter into the grub menu. So for this assignment, I will assume that I have lost my grub password as well, along with my root password. So firstly, I will now begin with breaking the grub password. As I am unable to access the files containing the grub password, I will have to first open my CentOS system on another ISO image. After that, I will enable the troubleshooting option on the CD-ROM image to rescue my CentOS OS. Through this option, I will be able to interact with the files inside my CentOS OS without having to go through the grub password and root password. Firstly, I have to download a CentOS 8 ISO file from the official website and save it on my C drive. And I've already done so and saved a ISO image on my C drive. I'll then configure the VM to use this ISO image. And I'll browse and choose this ISO image. And press OK. And now I'll power on my virtual machine and go to the BIOS by pressing F2 when it's booting up. I'll now go to the boot section and move the CD-ROM drive option to the top of the list. This will make sure that the VM will boot using the CD-ROM drive first. And I'll press F10 to save and exit. Now the VM will load up this menu. I'll then select the troubleshooting option and select Rescue a CentOS OS Linux system. And this will boot up the rescue environment for my VM, which will take a while. As you can see, I am now currently inside the rescue environment. The rescue environment will now attempt to find my Linux installation and mount it under the directory /mnt/sysroot. I can then make any change required by my system. I'll now press 1 to continue and wait for the rescue shell to boot up properly. Now the rescue shell has indicated that my system has been mounted under /mnt/sysroot, and that if I would like to make any changes, I'll run the command chroot/mnt/sysroot. As such, I'll first press enter to get a shell, and then after that I will type in the command chroot/mnt/sysroot. After that, I will type in vim/etc/grub2.cfg. This will take me to the grub.configuration file, and now I'll scroll down to the section with the superuser and grub password. And now I'll comment out both lines. Save and exit. After that, I cd into the directory /etc/grub.d, where I'm now looking for this 40_custom file. I'll remove the 40_custom file and rename the 40_custom backup file back to its original name. After that, I cd back out and cd back into the and I cd into the different directory. This time it's the boot slash grub2 directory. And now I'm looking for the file grub.cfg. I'll delete the grub.cfg file and rename the grub.cfg.backup file back to its original name. And this is to verify that my commands have gone through. And they have. And now I'll exit from the rescue environment. Now the VM will take me back to this menu again. I'll restart the VM again. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, I misclicked a bit, so I'm so sorry. I'll get back to it. And no, this time I'll restart the guest client, and then I'll also go back to the BIOS. And now I'll go back to the boots section and move the hard drive option back to the top. And I'll press F10 to save and exit. So after doing all that, and back to here, if I were to press E, as you can see, the grub menu is no longer protected by a password and super user. And now I'll be able to reset my root password through this menu again. Now that we are in the grub menu, we will now be able to reset the root password as well. So now I'll scroll down to the line that starts with Linux and go to the end of the line. I'll now input the line rd.break and then press Ctrl X to resume the boot process. This is to instruct the bootloader to break during the boot process. The boot process will break and enter the emergency mode. It will then provide me with a command prompt with the root privilege. In this emergency mode, your Linux system is actually boot from a RAM disk with the bare minimum system files and tools. The real root file system at this point is mounted under the directory sysroot. So now that we are inside this menu, to proceed to reset the root password, which is stored in our real root file system, we need to remount the directory sysroot to read-write mode and change our root from directory 0 to sysroot directory. So now I will type umount. I'll type umount /sysroot and then I'll type mount /dev/mapper/cl underscore root bracket space sysroot. And then finally, I'll type in chroot/sysroot. Now I'll be able to use the password command to reset my root password. So now I'll type in password root, and now I'll be able to change my password again. After that, I'll also need to follow the CentOS convention to ensure that the auto-relabel file is created at the folder. So I'll type in touch. I'll first cd out and then touch.auto-relabel. I'll now type in exit the emergency mode and init 6 to reboot the system. And now I'll be able to type in my root username and type in my new password. And as you can see, I have now changed my root password as well as my Grub password. And this is the end of my video on how to change both your Grub and root password, and I'll catch you all next time.